very excited to introduce everyone to Jean-Charles Boisset. Jean-Charles is, there he is.
Bonjour, Montana.
Bonjour.
How are you today?
So good. How are you?
You're looking fabulous, fresh, beautiful, irresistible, as always.
Thank you very much. Likewise. You are from Burgundy, of course, and you have covered a lot of ground in your career, sir.
Well, I'm not sure a lot of ground. You're very kind to say that. I was very fortunate, Montana, to be born in a very small village of Burgundy, which is really the epicenter of fine Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, in a small town named Vougeot, only 180 inhabitants. And I was born making wine in Burgundy. My parents started the winery in the living room. So I've made wine really all my life. And over the years, we've expanded, obviously, from Burgundy to the Beaujolais region, the Rhone, the south of France, Napa Valley, and Sonoma. So we have today a collection of many wineries. You represent them all, 26 of them, that are really Franco-American driven. Why? Because I love America, and I really believe in the best, most magical country in the world. So we came here and we got established and acquired a few wineries, and really are so pleased, Montana, to be as well as one of the unique family-owned company to not only do French wines, but American wines as well.
And I've had the pleasure and luck to go to visit a few of your wineries. So I've been to Raymond, I've been to Deloach,
Yes.
and I have been to Chateau Buena Vista, of course, which is the oldest winery in California. So every one of them is a unique experience, but it's really, I have the wine here too. It's really about the experience that you create there, and also the connection with nature. You do such a beautiful job of making sure, farming practices, biodynamics, organics, solar powering the wineries, and you're making a significant amount of wine, but really doing it in a really holistic way, which I
That's right. This is really our belief, and I think your background today is beautiful. You must be in your outdoor.
In my garden.
Gorgeous. And we believe in nature, and this is very important. You know, we've been so fortunate to have the gift of Mother Nature, which is the finest gift is grape, and the most luxurious, the most elegant, the most refined, and the one you can really communicate a message. It's a lot easier to tell something from grapes than it is from corn or potato. Even though we do great things with corn and potato, grapes is the ultimate. So we follow so we follow exactly what you've mentioned, what you believe in, what we all believe in, is being very respectful and working within the rhythm of Mother Nature, which is biodynamic. So we follow the lunar calendar very thoroughly, and we are very disciplined into doing preparation that prevent illness in the vineyard. So 0 pesticides, 0 herbicides, 0 synthetic products. So we as pure as we can from what the soil and the weather and this trinomial relationship with the plant has to offer.
And that brings me to thinking about, where that root comes from for you. Certainly that is something that is instilled in you by your own father, Jean-Claude.
Well, I was very fortunate. My grandmother, in fact, was a school teacher as well. And she was really, really great at observing nature. And, as a little child, you like a Father's Day, you spend time with kids and you tell them, okay, why are bees going here? Why a bird is doing this? And why do we do compost? Why do we prune at this time of the year? And I learned very, very early on from her to be very respectful of Mother Nature. So it really triggered in me the willingness to establish the whole foundation of what we do according to those principles. And the process of critical path of thinking, meaning, okay, so I put a glass of wine in front of them like this one. I say smell, or a plant, a flower, a fruit, or anything that crosses their mind that they smell. And then I get them to taste the wines, of course, because they're my daughters, they have to taste wine. But, just a little sip, and to give me the same descriptive. And I engage, youth and not only youth, because we should all do that. That's the way I taste wine anyhow. To really think on your own, not being told what to think, but think about what you smell, what you sense. Beauty
So
to have.
often we don't realize how much children echo what we think, and it's like they want to create and formulate their own mind, but they're not usually given the opportunity to do it in that way. So I think there's a lot of ways that people could do this. I tasted wine as a small child as well, and I'm going to visit my father and honor Father's Day because he introduced me to it. But I think that this exercise is so powerful. It's a great way for people adults to maybe taste the wine. If they want to give a taste to their child, fine, but you certainly could explore this with other flavors and start to be like, what are you having in an experience? And I also think that this is a way that wine becomes a catalyst for like noticing the world around us and noticing when something is missing or out of balance, because we're experiencing that a lot right now socially, where people are not aware of lack of balance in their communities.
Exactly. I fully agree with you. So I really feel that the transfer we could give, those vibration of inspiration, is the key. And that's why, in those moments of Father's Day, Mother's Day, that we recently to be together as a family, as much family as you have, gather them all and bring as many people together, because there's so much to learn from one another and so much to learn about emotion and senses. I think history and very factual matters, you could learn them on their own through books and through all kinds of other medium, but emotion, feeling, senses is really transmitted through people's exchange like we are having now. So it's irreplaceable to be able to bring people together, social distancing, of course, but to really respect the fact that ideas come from others and greater ideas come by collectively being around the table. And that's what I appreciate myself doing immensely all the time.
As do I. And for that reason, we created a 4-pack of Cabs for Dads, Cabernet, for the weekend. But it's not just for this weekend, of course, because we drink Cab all the time, right? And
yes,
these are all, amazing for the 4th, all the way through the rest of the year and on.
So maybe we start the tasting by the Durant Booth.
Okay. Let's do
if
it.
you allow me, because this is really one of the wonderful introduction of Napa Valley. As we talked about history, what is important, I think, for dad is if you offer them something, or if you as a dad present something to your friends and family, you really talk about the true phenomenal background of history of the United States, America at large, California specifically, and Napa Valley. So to give you a little bit of history on this, you had two families, Mr. Durant, Mr. Booth, came from the old world, the UK, in the 1860s, 1870s, to follow the American dreams, of course, end up in California for the gold rush, and then stay and establish the first Victorian home in the heart of Oakville. So maybe we cheer, because that's very important, to wish Montana an amazing time with a father as well. And to all the fathers, mothers, children watching today.
Absolutely. Thank you. Cheers. Sante.
Ooh la la. And we wanted to create here a very soft, very elegant wine. So as a father, I always try to bring consensus at the table. You bring everybody together, and you bring every palate together, every flavor profile together. And this is the wine I know everybody's going to love. It's soft, it's sophisticated, it's elegant. You're not breaking the bank either, so you're not going at crazy pricing. And this is really, which I love your selection, Montana, and I thank you so much for it, because this is really an entry-level Napa Valley Cabernet, made in French oak, combination of all the Napa Valley AVA. So from Oakville to Rutherford to St. Helena to Stag's Leap, Calistoga, Mount Veeder, you name
Quite
it.
a pedigree.
It's all blended into this beautiful 2016 vintage. And I love it because Montana, there's a great sense of place. So whenever you friends and all of you with us today and tomorrow will come to Napa Valley. You must come and see the Durant Booth house. It's adjacent to the Oakville Grocery, and this is one of the most historical Victorian home, one of the most beautiful. If you like the Victorian era, you're blessed. From the surrounding you in, this is perfect because it would do fabulously well with pizza, with appetizers. You have a steak tartare, would be amazing. You have a salmon tartare, would be incredible. So it has that elegant, that softness that some of the next wine do not have because they're going to be bigger, richer, maybe more powerful. So this one is the wine you want to share with. If people want to have rosé, you may want to have them enjoy this, but slightly as well cooler in temperature. So you can even keep it a little bit on ice. And it's made by a great winemaker named Thane Knudsen, who's been our winemaker as well at Raymond for 10 years, with our director of winemaking, Stephanie Putnam. So he's really talented at making a wine with elegance and finesse.
It's beautiful.
And it really reminiscent of the old style of English type of packaging. Mr. Durant, Mr. Booth, founded in 1877. I mean, that makes me think even of the great stories of two families getting together and creating a magical place and a great wine. And this is really what we wanted to explain in this wine.
It's beautiful.
Now, the next one is really exciting, Montana. This is the one you want to bring to your dad as well. Because
I'm bringing all of them.
For sure. Well, great. Then I shouldn't say that. You're a great daughter. I wish my daughter would be the same.
They're too little. They'll get there. Don't worry. You're raising them right.
Yeah, they haven't offered me wine yet, but they do beautiful drawings. And this is the activity. What activity did you do with your father being younger, below 12 years old, let's say? Did you have a favorite activity you used to do?
Fly fishing.
Oh, great. Wow.
We grew up on the river. We grew up in on the river, Roaring Fork River in Colorado. And
of course.
We learned how to fish. So we learned about the ecosystem and you can't throw the same fly at the same time of day all the time. And it just, it was a metaphor for everything else we were doing in life.
Absolutely. Well, this is brilliant. I mean, being outdoor with your father, learning about nature. Yeah, so the next wine over is fascinating as well, because we went on the opposite side of what we've never done before, Montana. We said we have a very iconic label, which really represent our museum in Oakville. And we said, let's create a museum where we learn the history of Napa Valley. And we teach everybody what is every AVA of Napa. So meaning AVA is an appellation, Stag's Leap, Oakville, Yountville, all the way up to Rutherford, San Linda, Calistoga, etc. And it's an amazing experiment. So you have signs, and we published a book about all the history of Napa. And we were missing one thing, making an amazing cab only made with American oak like it used to be done in the 1800s.
I thought so. I could smell. I said immediately, there's something different here.
Yeah, so tell us about the difference you feel.
It was a coconut note that
yes.
and I'm actually pleased to say that, because sometimes I get a really sort of intense dill aroma with American oak, and I don't get that here, but it's the coconut that I am feeling with the fruit, which I think is really lovely, actually.
That's right. And are you a horseback rider?
Yes.
Yeah,
leather.
So you could feel as well the leather of the saddle a little bit. You could feel as well the outdoor wood under a forest when it's a little humid. You could feel the nice toastiness of a toast that you may have in the morning. You could feel, I believe as well, a lot of licorice in this wine. And we wanted to make an all-in American cab that you want to have on the 4th of July.
This is a man's cab.
That's it. And you want to have it maybe with a hamburger, with the hot dogs. You want to have it possibly with beef, grilling, in the next few days. I'm a big fan of this wine because as much as I love the finesse of French oak, I love the power the energy, and frankly, the over-the-top richness that the oak brings to this really powerful Napa Valley Cabernet. So we went on a long maceration, skin contact level over 60 days. So you get a lot of settled,
Wow.
red fruit as well. I don't know if you do, but I feel a lot of fig and date to this.
Absolutely. There is like a dried fruit character. And I think this is the most unique Napa Valley Cabernet I've ever tasted. There's so much, very much the same. And of course, leave it to you to like boldly do something that isn't done. But this is really interesting. I mean, it is all the things you've mentioned, but just very much has a personality of its own.
Well, and which is beautiful with 1881. Our neighbor is Silver Oak, and the Duncan family has done an amazing job for the last 50 years. And we wanted to make sure that we as well made an American oaked Cabernet. And we didn't have one, and we thought, let's all do one and see how we can compare and contrast. So we didn't want the oak to be overly dominant. We want it still to be a great wine. But it's great as well for us internationally because a lot of people want to discover what Napa is with that great, powerful, and a little bit of that eucalyptus mint finish on it, which makes it, I believe, very much the American flag put forward.
I love that. And the thing too is, we have it set up in a 4-pack, which is so great because people, a lot of times, they like one thing or they like Napa Valley Cabernet, but until you taste one area of the world, same grape variety in a lineup like this, it's hard to differentiate and know what you really like most. So I always recommend pull all 4 of the corks because hopefully you're going to be together with family, or if it's just you, chip away at them for a few days. I don't know.
Well, I'm with you, Montana. I come
but
from
tasting side by side like this, it's totally different.
I come always from the angle that we need to open as many bottles as possible at the dinner table because it's all about flavor. And many people tend to think, and historically, specifically Napa, we could think it's one wine, big wine, overly ripe, high alcohol, and this is Cabernet. But Napa Valley has subtlety, subtlety. We're talking about 6 of the most diverse soil around the world. We're talking about only 47,000 acres of land with one of the most diverse Cabernet profile, even as much as Bordeaux. Because when we talk Bordeaux left bank, right bank, we add significant components, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, Malbec, Petit Verdot, and a few other grape varieties to it to really compose a different style. Here, we're talking about 100% cab that really speak volume, speak history. And I wanted to make sure that this wine as well symbolized, as you could see, the gold rush, which came a few years before, and really the history of America and breathing the history through it and feeling it through the taste as well. So very multidimensional in the process of how we create those wines.
It's wonderful, and I love even the detail that is done on the packaging on these, like the gold that's added. It's stunning. They're beautiful.
Thank you. And you've noticed, of course, on 1881 we have on the right side the map of Napa Valley, so everybody can obviously identify where this incredible assemblage of appellation is from, and they could travel as they drink the wine. And obviously we have an incredible website that really guides people through the tasting from the soil all the way to the flavor, which I think is important. And we need to always make sure there's a sense of fun and education. For me, I'm all about fun, no question about it, with underlining powerful educational messages. And I feel life, as you represent yourself as a phenomenal lady in the world of wine, is all about what you don't see. The wine is not getting its flavor from the photosynthesis and the leaf and the grape growing. It's getting it from its soil. The rootstock and the depth of the search of that food within the land is giving the kaleidoscope of flavors and colors that the wine has to offer. And I think Napa Valley, thank God, very differently than Burgundy, has something very interesting to offer in each of those very unique AVAs. So I'm a big fan. Whereas the next wine, we've created something totally different. And the fun of the next wine is really to all the ladies with us who are going to spoil their father, or who are going to spoil, obviously, their husband, because, you know, as husband, we are father as well often, and we need to be spoiled the same way. But why the ladies? Because here, you know, which is so great, Montana, as your leadership, your style, and your elegance in the wine world, you know, we really wanted to bring, not only in the marketing, in the sales, women, Montana, are better at wine tasting and winemaking than men. This is a fact that is verified scientifically. And my mother,
is it, what is it?
well, my irresistible wife, Gina, as you know, is fantastic at it, as well as many of her family members. I'm excited, actually. I just saw Stephanie being with us on Instagram quickly. So hello, Stephanie, another great leader in the wine world, Stephanie Gallo. And my sister, phenomenal. My mother, incredible. So here, this is the creation of Stephanie Putnam and ourselves. We wanted to create a new dimension of wine in Napa when we bought Raymond in 2009. So Raymond family, winemakers for 5 generations, anchors in Napa, anchor in one style which was big, like them, 6'3", 6'5", 300 pounds later, big boys, loving the Roy and Walter Raymond. They're great friends today, but really representing a style. We said, coming from where we came from, originally Burgundy, we said we want elegance, we want finesse, power, sophistication, but with a feminine touch. 2 ladies make the wine, Stephanie Putnam and Kathy George. Vineyard manager, over 450 acres, Sophie Drucker, another woman. And obviously we have the help of Philippe Melka as a consulting winemaker to craft this wine. And a lot of great names that some of you may not know, but I think it's very important. One of the leading Napa Valley estate being led by women. And it feels in the wine why I believe those ladies transcended what I could have done on my own, what Philippe could have done, and what 95% of the men do, which are typical styles of wine. They brought elegance, they brought texture that is lace, that is, you know, velvet, that is silk to this wine, but still be Napa Valley.
The label's velvet. It's so fabulous. I absolutely love this.
Thank you so much.
And the style is like feminine meets masculine, and it's just this dance that can happen, and there's a place for both. And this is just such a, like, it is a wave, this lineup. It is so special.
And I love it because you see, you have our Russian friends, you have our French friends online, and you have many people from around the world. What I'm so pleased, you know, Montana, with this wine, it fits as well an international palate. Us Europeans specifically, we like wine with food. We like wine as a company, not as a dominant factor. You know, it has to be paired. And if you have it alone, you want it sexy, you want it suave, you want to have it allure, elegance, and finesse. So whether you're in Japan, you're in China, you're in Africa, you're in France, you're in Russia, obviously, as our friends are there, in you, South America, Raymond is enjoyed and appreciated. 1, because it's American. 2, great history. 3, insane package. I mean, it's a velvet label.
It's amazing.
And then
this was honored the 40th anniversary, but we made you guys keep it because we loved it so much.
Well, and we expanded it, as you know, and you're doing great success with it, with the Red Blend, which is a blue label in honor of Royal Blue from France. And the Merlot is actually a black velvet label, the black tie.
Beautiful. Yes, that trio. Okay, let's taste. That's so beautiful. I love this because, again, wine's about community and unity, and we bring it together. Like you say, it's an international tasting experience that even if you don't speak the same language, you can have a similar sensory moment, and that's what the world needs more of.
You know, as we say, and you've seen all my posts, wine brings us together, irrelevant of our religion, irrelevant of our skin color, irrelevant, obviously, of our beliefs. And I really feel wine is the catalyst of conversation, positive and constructive debate. And wine is everything that has been part of any religion. You could be Muslim, you could be Jewish, you could be Buddhist, you could be obviously Jansenist, or you could be Lutheran, you could be Calvinist, or you could be Catholic. Wine is at the essence. So I think we need to use wine these days. Wine is colorless. Wine is religionless. Wine brings us together to be together and to convey the passion we have for life, not for arguments, not for negativity, and certainly not for negative messaging.
I will say these conversations tend to be very soul-filling. Thank you for that.
Yes, very much. Well, and it's important. This is why, God gave us the elixir, the ultimate one, which is the grape, the most noble, aristocratic agricultural product to be converted really from grape naturally. The sugar converts into alcohol. This is like fruit with a little bit of time with it, and that's it. So I really feel wine, and there's no reason why, we could not convert, if we continue to have climate change, convert water into wine, hence my initial JC. So I'm working on it a lot.
Okay. If anyone can do it, I have all the faith in the world in you.
Thank you. Well, as soon as you join me, we'll work on it together.
Absolutely. I can't wait to get back out there. And things are reopening. It's another thing to mention. I had a post the other day inviting, encouraging people back out to the wineries. I was in January, we were together at Buena Vista and Raymond, and I had such an amazing visit in Buena Vista. It was my first time there, and we're actually going to taste this wine next, which this is a big boy, this bottle, but that place is such an experience. And I was so touched by your story about going there with your sister and your grandparents as a child.
Coming from Burgundy, I was 10 and a half. My grandparents were resistant in the war, and the trip was not about wine. It was about the missions and really discovering this beautiful state. And we went there. And the building you see on the label is the building that has been there since 1857. Oldest winery in California, one of the oldest American winery today, the first to do gravity flow, the first to actually do Méthode Champenoise sparkling, the first to bring modern viticulture to America in 1861 and to introduce Cabernet Zinfandel as such, and my favorite. So I'm very emotional there. We in fact celebrated Gina's very, unique birthday when she turned 30 last year. And it was a few years ago. And it was there as a surprise party. Why? Because I think and feel and sense that Buena Vista is the beginning. And why this wine is so powerful. This is actually one of the most successful Cabernet, in the US right now, released specifically on premise when we could go to restaurant, because I think it brings everything together. Power, energy, a vortex of flavor, radiance of aroma, and then that everlasting finish. As America is, we want it to be remembered, and we never want to be forgotten. And this is why we've made such a wine with such power. And Brian Maloney, obviously, is our magical winemaker with an incredible team. And this is probably one of the wines I'm the most proud of. Why? Because this has been one of our most successful release as Chateau. And you may wonder, why did we call it Chateau? Being very fortunate owning a variety of chateaux in France of the 18th century, 19th century, this is a different style of chateau, but it was always referred in the 19th century as the chateau. So we decided, let's call it Chateau. It deserves it. And it needs to be the American symbol. And we want, as you've been, everybody to go there. We have a museum. We have an amazing library of artifacts. We have an incredible wine cellar. We have a bubble lounge. We have unique experiences. We want everyone to see, touch, feel Buena Vista, because we don't own it. My daughters don't own it. America owns it as the oldest, most unique, interesting, historical winery on the planet.
It is a place where you can feel the energy. And if you're not into things that are a little crunchy, bear with it. But I truly feel like there is this energetic pull in this place And it is such a, I mean, it's so beautifully preserved. The effort and energy that went into keeping that building the way that it was and it is, you cannot miss that. And it's right at, you know, at the border of Sonoma Napa, so you get like this sense of both. It's so incredible.
Yeah,
It's an incredible.
this is really the beginning. Those are the first vineyards ever planted in 1957. We got to realize, you know, pre-57, the Russians, indeed, as they are with us today, came in 1812, started the Russian River on the bench of the famous Russian River, trapped skins, brought them back to Alaska, to Russia. But really, the Count of Buena Vista, coming from Hungary, really started the first. He was the man. He was really a Renaissance man before or after Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo and a lot of the great lords of the past. And I really feel this is the American passport. And I think, you know, Montana, it's important. And the way you've sequenced those wines with Durant Booth, 1881, Raymond, and of course, Chateau Buena Vista is essential. I want every international visitors to see Buena Vista because they're going to learn what is Sonoma, what is Napa, and what is thereafter California. That's important. We need a sense of place. We need to understand history. We need to know history. So when you talk about 1881, the first Napa Valley Wine Museum, Buena Vista, the first American museum on wine in America today. We have the most complete and certainly the most activated with over 2,500 historical artifacts that really will bring your imagination back to the beginning of time on how we make wine, how we cultivate the vineyards, and how we serve wine with an amazing collection of decanters. So I'm very passionate about it because it was my dream to buy this winery since 11 years old. It took me, sadly, 30 years to achieve it, you know, and it was 9 years ago when we could bring it into our collection of wineries. And it was probably one of my most amazing day ever because I was there with my grandparents and we noticed it. We dreamt of it. My sister loved it. And here it is now part of who we are as really a benchmark of what Napa Valley is.
And we are, I mean, again, we're here in honor of Dad and heritage and legacy. And those things tie so much into what this lineup's about and what you're about. And that's why I'm so honored and grateful that you're here today.
This is always so inspiring. So I really want to thank you so much. Carla was amazing to set this up. All our friends listening, because this is great. We've had a lot, and we know a lot of people will be watching this as well as we're going to post it. And we want everybody to be part of the wine world. And Montana said something very important. Open all the bottles of wine, whether you're with a group or you by yourself, because wine is a conversation. They each have a personality. They each need to be experienced, and they each have something unique to tell you.
They do. Thank you so much, Jean-Charles. Until I see you in 2 weeks' time only, but happy Father's Day. Cheers to you. I'm so grateful to know you, and I can't wait to see you soon.
Cannot wait. And to everyone, happy Father's Day as well.
Cheers.
Cheers.